Hello everyone, welcome to ITLS Academy. Myself, Advocate Priyanka, and today in the continuation of our topic Clinical Research and Regulatory Affairs, we will talk about the lecture 13. Lecture 13 is basically about the rules to prevent conflict of interest for clinical investigator conducting human subject research. So in this topic, we will see that what is the conflict of interest in common and then what can be the conflict of interest in the field of clinical research for clinical investigators and then how this conflict of interest can be prevented and why it is important to prevent. All these things we are going to see in today's lecture. But before going to today's topic, as usual, we will see a recap of our previous topic. So in previous video, we have talked about the legal issues in the regulation of biologics product by the FDA. So we have talked a lot about the FDA and then what are the FDA regulations and are there any legal issues in the regulation of biological products by the FDA. So yes, there are few legal issues like I have mentioned some important legal issues like dual regulatory pathways and product classification. Basically, it is about like see for the drugs and for the biologics, there are different two regulatory pathways, NDA and BLA respectively. So sometimes what happens that therapeutic product is same, but due to their composition, they have named as drug and biologics, and that's why they will have to follow two separate regulatory pathway, and then it becomes a problem. It can be a legal issue for FDA that how to determine it. Then second is there are some medicines like you can say biosimilar and interchangeability designations. So there are some I have discussed this with a very simple example like when you are going to a medical store and if some medicine they don't have what doctor has prescribed, so they just give you option that okay sir or madam you can buy this one instead of this because composition of this. So that is the biosimilar. So but for the biosimilar product are they have passed all the regulatory checkups by FDA or not. So these things are really important to be come in notice that because it is the major concern for the safety. So this is also legal issues because there is no such type of any legal concern that they cannot provide the biosimilar medicines. Then there is off-label use. So basically we have seen that what is off-label use. So off-label use is like when a drug is used in a way that is different from what is prescribed in the FDA. Like when a drug comes to the market, it comes with the some uh, use for the indication of use like how much ml or how many times or how much ml for pediatrics or how much ml for adults. So this thing comes, but what happens physicians uh, mostly don't follow this off level this use and they basically give accordingly to like if something is for 5 ml for the adults they give it 2 ml for the pediatrics, and FDA doesn't have any regulations on that. So this is also a legal issue in the regulation of products or drugs or biologics by FDA. Then evolving technology, obviously as per day generation is evolving, technologies are evolving and technology are evolving in medical field also like gene sequencing and so many technologies are coming. So in that case what happens that law is not evolving so much so fast. So that's why when technology are evolving then it is little bit hard to you can say it is little bit hard to make a or to impose all rules on the coming or on the new technology. So this is also a major legal issue. Then manufacturing and quality control because all the things like clinical trials are done before the manufacturing. But if what happens if sometime in the manufacturing there is problem, obviously there is FDA checking. But now it is given I mean uh, few you can say experts from the clinical fields are telling that there should be one additional clinical trials at the time of manufacturing also. So these are the things, few things which are basically legal issues in the regulation of biologics products by FDA. And I have discussed in a detail about these things in my previous video. If you want to know about the details, you can go and see the lecture 12. So now we will move to our today's topic, that is rules to prevent conflict interest for clinical investigators conducting human subject research. So in this, first we will see that what is the conflict of interest. A situation in which person is in a position to derive personal benefit from action or decision made in their official capacity. So see, like if we talk about in the general terms. So see, if anyone is HR or anyone is at the high position, and during the interview process he gives the you can say that he gives opportunity, or he gives biased decision towards some of his friend or some of his family. So that time what happens, it was his conflict of interest for that position, particular position, that he was authorized to hire someone, but he hired from his family member, from his friends, among his friends. So this is the basically called conflict of interest, that when you are in a position that you can take any decision, any important decision, and in that case you have some other interest related to that position. So and in that's why you can give some biased decisions. This is called basically conflict of interest. Now we will see that what is the conflict of interest in clinical research. A situation in which a clinical investigator primary interest is influenced by his secondary interest. So like clinical research is, why clinical research is done? Clinical research is done for the benefit of uh, you can say benefit of the patient, well-being of the patient. So what is the primary interest here? Primary interest of any clinical research is the researcher's main responsibility, that is patient well-being or the scientific validity of the research. But what is telling here, that when primary interest is influenced by his secondary interest. So what can be the secondary interest of researcher for any ongoing clinical research? Secondary interest can be something like financial gain, personal prestige, career development, or you can say family employment, anything type of these things can be secondary interest. And when this secondary interest become, you can see, when the secondary interest weighs more than the primary interest, then obviously there will be compromise in the primary interest. There can be compromise in the patient well-being, and that should be not done. So this is basically the conflict of interest in clinical research, when any clinical investigators or any researchers secondary interest, he is giving more weight to his secondary interest than the primary interest, which is the basically well-being of the patient. For example, financial ties, like a researcher receiving payments from a drug company whose products are being studied or whose products are being tested. So like, see, if any researcher is testing some other company's product, but what is happening, he is gaining some extra financial investments from that particular company. So in that case, what can be happen? In that case it can happen that if there are some drawbacks in the study, instead of, still he will he will approve it, and he will give the clean sheet because of his secondary interest, that is the financial gain from that particular company. So this is the, you can say, very general example for the conflict of interest in clinical research. Now, so uh, before going to that, rules to prevent conflict of interest in clinical research, I would just want to clear that why it is important to prevent conflict of interest. Obviously, it is important to prevent conflict of interest in clinical research, because if secondary interest will be more, then primary interest will be compromised. That means patient's well-being, scientific validity of any particular study will be compromised, and that will not be the safe for the uh, you can say for the public, or for the normal person, or for the participants. So that's why it is very important to prevent conflict of interest in clinical research. So how can we prevent? There are some rules to prevent conflict of interest in clinical research. First one is disclosure. So before uh, not you can say before appointment, after appointment, all clinical investigator or individuals who are involved in that particular clinical research, in that particular study, they must disclose if they have any potential conflict of interest, including any financial relationship. As we talked earlier, that that particular researcher has some financial tie-up with that company whose product was being studied. So if there is anything, then that clinical investigator or that any individual who is related to that clinical research, they must disclose this. These disclosures are informed to institutional review board and conflict of interest committee. So it should be you can say clearly mentioned if there is any, or it can be any potential, and it should be informed to IRB, and conflict of interest ethical committee is also there. Then to potential research participant as part of the informed consent process. So obviously when there are some research is going on, clinical trial is going on, then some participants like human participants are there, so they also must be informed through the informed consent process. Then in publication, often through a specific forms and a statement at the end of manuscript. So, and disclosure should be detailed and timely so the ethics committee can take appropriate action. So it should be not like that after the research is done or after the half period of research, anyone is going to inform, anyone is going to tell that, okay, I had some financial tie-up, or I had some family members in that particular family, or I have some close friends in that particular. So it should be not done. It should be done on the timely basis, and it should be in very detailed, so appropriate action can be taken to prevent any biasness in the result of that clinical research. Second is mitigation plan development. So obviously, to how to maintain this, how to prevent this conflict of interest, how to maintain integrity, there must be some mitigation plan. The committee must develop and require a specific plan to manage identified conflicts. Like it should not like with that if there is nothing. So if any research is going on, then they should must have some plan. They should must go through, okay, these forms will give on which they will disclose. So this type of plans must be there, and these are required to determine if a conflict exists that could affect the research or participant safety. The committee may require further measures beyond simple disclosure. Sometimes what happens, like not only in the normal disclosures they give all the details, so they must have some plans that they can find out beyond the disclosures given by the individuals involved in the clinical research. Then it is independent committee composition. There must be some independent committee. It should not be like that who individuals are working there, they are only making, or one or two from that, they are making that committee who is reviewing all the disclosures. No, it should not be done. What should be done? It should be done, then there must be some different people who have nothing relation to, or who have nothing to do with that clinical research. Why this is done? Because to prevent biasness, because when it will be the independent committee, they will be not biased towards any person or toward any investigator, toward any individual, toward any company. So they must be completely different, and it should have members. They don't have, without the conflict of interest, that means they do not have anything to do with that clinical research. Members with a conflict of interest must disclose it and rescue themselves from discussion and decision related to that project. If anyone has some conflict of interest from that particular, so they must disclose it before becoming the member of committee, because after it, if it will be find out, it will be problematic for them, and then obviously it will be problematic for their career also. So it is important to know that if you are going to the member of independent committee, then you must, and if you have any type of potential, or it can be in future concern with that clinical research individuals or that particular committee, any type of conflict of interest, you must disclose it before the taking decision. Now there is monitoring. there should be system in a place to monitor conflict of interest, as financial interest and relationship can change over time, obviously. See, if right now you have disclosed, or right now any researcher disclosed that he doesn't have any conflict of interest, he doesn't have any financial relation, he doesn't have any relationship with that particular company. But what happens sometimes in future, if he will get some financial gain from that particular company, that particular company can approach that researcher that, okay, if there are few drawbacks, you just keep it side, we will give you some financial gain. Or there are some relationships, if it comes grow slowly, then it is not disclosed in the disclosure time. So that's why continuous monitoring is required to check that if there is any future conflict of interest or any relationship that grew over the time. It can be achieved by proactive auditing. Periodic random audits of financial records or related party transactions can verify the accuracy of disclosure and detect undeclared conflicts. Whistleblower channels. So there are some confidential reporting mechanism, or there should be some confidential reporting members in that team. So if they know that if there is anything like that, without fear of retaliation, they just give information to the monitoring committee, and that will serve as an important monitoring tool. So these things are very important to prevent conflict of interest in clinical research. And then obviously last one is education, that we say training and awareness, because what happens, sometimes researchers have financial relationship or some other relationship, but they are not aware that they should disclose it, or how important it is to disclose these things. So continuous training and awareness toward the researchers, ethic members and administrators should be done, so that any conflict of interest and the importance of managing them to ensure policies are effective. So these are the major things which are required to provide clear conflict of interest in clinical research. And provision of conflict of interest in clinical research is much required, because it is the major concern for the healthy and safety of the patients. Because clinical research is going on, obviously it is about the health, safety of the patients' well-being for the society. So we have talked about what is the conflict of interest and how to prevent conflict of interest, why it is important to prevent conflict of interest. If you have any doubts in this topic, you can obviously write in the comment section as usual. I just tell you guys always, you can approach me there. I will come with doubt clearing sessions. And if you don't have any doubts, then it is well and good. And then we will see our next topic in our next video, that is about the National Institute of Health Policy on the inclusion of women and monitors as human subject research. So it is going to be interesting topic, because we will talk that we know all that human subject research, that human participants are required for the clinical research, but what is the importance of women and minorities, and what are the basically policy of NIH on this. So this topic is going to be very great. Be tuned to watch this topic with me. And obviously if you have any doubts, as I told just now, that not only in this topic, earlier to that topic also, you can write in the comment section. And as always, I acknowledge that study material are from the Google's free available study material, some study material, and images are also from there. So I acknowledge and I give credit to Google also. And please don't forget to follow ITLS Academy on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. You can find it on Google Play also. Thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe ITLS Academy YouTube channel, so you will get update on my new videos and on other interesting topic videos also. Thank you so much for watching, and like, share and subscribe, and see you. Bye bye. See you the next time with the next interesting topic. Thank you so much. Bye.